hello everyone. Welcome to Findem Live, and thank you for joining us. We'll let a couple folks more trickle in, but while we're doing that, just wanted to introduce ourselves. If you don't know us at Findem, we are a platform that automates and consolidates top-of-funnel workflows across your entire town system. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are talking about how Marathon Health supercharges sourcing with AI, and we have some amazing guest speaker here for you. My name is Frances Way, head of product marketing here at Findem, and your host for the next half hour. And it's going to be an amazing jam-packed hour. Today, we are talking a little bit about Marathon Health, and we also have an action-packed demo for you guys so you can see it all in action. Without any further ado, I wanted to introduce our speakers today. Please welcome Laura Lazewski, Senior Talent Acquisition Partner for Marathon Health. Laura, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Lazewski. I have been a recruiter for over 10 years now. I started in the construction industry. I moved to medical March of 2020. So that was quite the time to make a jump when the world shut down. But it's been really fun to be learning this industry and finding great providers to serve fellow Americans.
Love that. Awesome. And we are going to pass it over to my colleague over here from Findem. We have Matt Kavala, Director of Enablement here. Matt, would you mind introducing yourself too?
Yeah, thanks, Francis. Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to learn a little bit more about Findem today. My name is Matt Kavala. I've been with Findem for coming up on 3.5 years now in a variety of different roles, heading up enablement now, and looking forward to showing you how Laura's been leveraging Findem and a little bit more about our Copilot features.
Awesome. So before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. This is meant to be a lively conversation. Please give comments, emojis, reactions, even the rude ones, whatever you like in the chat. Ask questions there. We'll have time at the end to address any question from you to Laura or Matt in case you have them. We are recording today, so in case you miss any of today's session or have to leave early, don't worry, we'll send the link out to rewatch later. And you can catch any of our Findem lives at findem.ai. So without further ado, let's jump into the main attraction, Miss Laura L. herself. Laura, I'm going to throw you a softball just to start off here. Could you tell us just a little bit about Marathon Health and your role there?
Sure, I'd love to. I think Marathon Health is a pretty exciting model of medicine. So we are a direct primary care company. What that looks like in our instance is we partner with organizations. They could be trade unions, counties, city, state, government. They could be school districts or local companies. And we provide excellent primary care to their staff, spouses, and dependents. So we are successful when our patients lead their healthiest lives possible. And then when people are healthy, of course, employers who pay insurance costs save a lot of money.
Awesome. And then tell us about your role.
Sure. So I have the privilege of bringing on new, mostly clinical teammates. So medical assistants, nurse practitioners, physicians, operations folks. But I've also started expanding a little bit into bringing on some of our corporate teammates as well.
Awesome. Now tell us about some of the, give us a picture of some of the challenges you faced before you had Findem. I know that the Marathon Health brand was maybe a little bit unknown and you had some challenges there. Talk to us a little bit about that.
This model is somewhat unknown, and I think that's challenging. If you picture you go to medical school and you come out with maybe $300,000 in debt, you've got it in your mind that you're going to go work for a big hospital system that you've heard of your whole life. And then here I come and I say, well, actually, there's this model you've not heard of, but this is why you went to school. Like, this is the type of medicine you want to practice. So talk to me about that, because I think what I can offer you is really great. So not having not only the name recognition, but also understanding the whole model of medicine was a little bit of a hurdle. Now, once I got someone on the phone, it was not a hard sell because it is so great. But getting someone to want to talk to me because I'm an unknown is a little bit tricky sometimes.
Gotcha. So attracting candidates, really getting that brand out there, that was a real challenge for you. So then fast forward, you get Findem. And now I'd love to talk a little bit to those folks out there who might be apprehensive about AI or still shopping around, right, for new tools. What really surprised you about the platform in a positive way?
So I will freely admit I'm not the most technology early adopter out there. I didn't get a smartphone until 2014. Probably most of you had one sooner, but I've been a recruiter for a while, right? So here I am. I've used other tools. AI felt kind of scary and big and nebulous. And can I comprehend AI? I'm not a technical person. But what I like about Findem is it didn't feel different than other platforms in that it wasn't overwhelming. I was able to get in, quickly understand how to run a search. My client success manager was amazing to help me get trained up to know how to use the system, and I was able to seamlessly transition skills I already knew and already had into using the platform to find candidates in really hard to fill locations and roles.
Love that. Um, I'm going to throw you a little curveball here because I know we talked a little bit about how creative you get on campaigns. Would love for you to highlight one of your crafty strategies. Can you do that for folks here?
Sure. So Findem is great because it doesn't limit the number of messages you send like other platforms I've used in the past. So for instance, if I need to find someone in a small town, and there maybe only have 3 people in that entire town who have the skill set I need, I was able to try a relocation campaign. So I was able to send messages to folks from surrounding states and saying, really I was selling the location and why they would want to move there and then moving into selling my job. So that was something I thought really neat. And I've tried this in a few places and the response has been pretty good. So it's been fun to be able to try different things that I just couldn't when I had such tight limits on message quotas.
Um, All right. Last one here. I love to wrap up and invite you to brag a little bit, but I know you're shy, so I'm gonna brag for you. And I know that you guys at Marathon Health have had some incredible results. If we can pull those up on the screen here for folks so they can see. It looks like you've had some really amazing increased email open rates. You had faster time to source and close. What really helped you drive these incredible results?
I am so pleased with my open rates. Some platforms, you're lucky if you get a 10% open rate. On Findem, I'm averaging more than 60% of people opening the emails. So what's great, I think what does that is I can change my subject lines freely, right? I can try what works and then kind of see why is it quick to source candidates? I have, for what I'm recruiting, it's the same type of roles, but in different locations. So I can use a similar template, right? If something worked well in Washington State, it's most likely going to work well in Missouri. So I don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that helps to source more quickly because I can just plug and play the information I need that's specific to each role. And I think that sped up the sourcing time, and then the messages are going straight to people's email inboxes. I don't need to wait for them to log into a platform to check their messages from me. It goes into the email, which is likely on their phone. And so I think I'm getting a faster, because so many people are opening the email. If they truly are interested, they're clicking right away.
Amazing. Just want to highlight here 60% email open rate, 10 minutes to the time to source a top candidate, and getting from sourcing to offer in only a week. These are incredible results. Congrats to you, Laura, and the team. I know you guys have put in a ton of hard work to probably make this come true. Um, so, with that, I wanted to switch gears a little bit to our demo. Thank you for pulling up that slide. Um, and I know that you put in a ton of work into your campaigns and things. So I want to take a different spin on our demo here and show you how Findem can work harder for you, Laura. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So you mentioned that you might be recruiting for some different roles, and not just clinical roles. So tell me a little bit about the challenge there.
So when I received my first IT position to fill, that was, like I said, I'm not the techiest person out there. So I was learning a whole new language. And then being able to quickly review applications. We didn't, unlike some of my clinical jobs, right? On the tech remote position, I had a plethora of people to choose from, but I don't have the skill quite yet to be able to look at a resume and quickly see, does this person have what I want or not?
Awesome. Well, Matt, let's show Laura how Findem can help her in this situation.
Yeah, I think that's my cue. Thanks, Francis. And Laura, thank you for providing us some background here. At Findem, we've been passionately building the solution that we're about to walk through here for the last better part of 6 years now. Can't believe how time's been flying. So for those that haven't seen Copilot in action, we're going to have Laura walk us through how she's been finding success on the Findem platform. And then we'll also be walking through what exactly Findem's Copilot is doing. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and share my screen. And with the help of Laura, we will walk through exactly what we're looking at here. As a rule of thumb, what Copilot is attempting to do and solve for is Copilot is taking the idea of a multi-channel utopia and turning it into a real strategy. So through Findem's AI, our Copilot is actually taking a look at all these job descriptions and trying to get you an active candidate pipeline in under 5 clicks. So for an example, we were talking about some technical roles. I believe Laura mentioned about a senior data lead and data scientist down here. So we'll actually have Copilot ingesting all these job recs from our greenhouse demo environment. And because not all JDs are created equal, at least what we found, some JDs are vague, some JDs even have misspellings on them, some of them aren't even up to date, right? So what Findem's doing is we're, over the last better part of half a decade, we've been building a proprietary AI data lake with over 100,000 different websites. So we can start layering on intent of these job descriptions. This is a critical difference of what Findem's Copilot is doing versus other products that you'll see on the market. So that's why, for an example, when we actually start the search for Copilot, before Laura, in this case, even starts the search, Copilot is already looking and pre-verifying candidates of who matched this job description before even getting started. So already with that connection in Greenhouse, Copilot has already started doing all the searching. We're layering on versus the data lake of 100,000 different websites, looking for some of those intangible characteristics that you might not have found on like a LinkedIn or a resume. And then we are welcomed into the search with a real high level breakdown of all the warm channels that you can go ahead and start tapping into. 3 really popular questions that clients will ask themselves and customers will ask themselves are, what is the breakdown of my hires by source? How much has my ATS grown by in the last year? So for an example, in Greenhouse, for those that are attending right now, if you know how many candidates were sitting in your Greenhouse 2 years ago versus today, chances are it's probably increased, and there's probably 1 or 2 people in there that if we were to update and enrich those profiles, that would probably be a good fit for this role. And then the last question is, historically, how has your team been sourcing across multiple of these channels? So you'll see that Copilot has already identified 173 candidates that have inbound applied for this role. And then I also have 141 candidates that are sitting in my Findem CRM. So without further ado, Laura, we'll kick it to you because we're going to go ahead and get started. Where do you typically get started when you first head into a Findem search?
I start looking on the left when I can pull up I start with the job description, right? But then I want to make sure I'm targeting within that. So my first go for, it's not relevant for this, but typically I'm hiring in-person positions. So I want to make sure the location radius makes sense. If it's a metropolitan area, a 50-mile radius is silly. But if it's a rural area, 50 miles is good. So I make sure I hit the right location. Beyond that, I often look for language. Some of our roles, if the bulk of our patient population speaks a language that's not English, I want to make sure I'm targeting someone, medical assistant or provider who speaks that language. But other than that, in a data role, right, I would be looking at experience level. That's really important.
Mm-hmm. That's probably a good call out. So you'll both get location and time zone. We also do have multiple different experience filters, like Laura's referencing. You'll have overall experience and current experience. These are very common on other platforms. So overall experience, how long has Francis actually been working in the role? And then current experience, or sorry, overall experience is how long they've just been working in general. Current experience, how long they've been working in the role. And then role experience and industry experience, these are unique to Findem. So role experience, we actually don't care how long Francis has been working for. Sorry, Francis. We just want to know how long you've actually been in your designated role and at other companies. So for an example, how long has someone physically been a lead data scientist for? And then industry experience is, I actually just want to know how long you've been working in SaaS, B2B, finance, banking, right? Whatever it is that you'd like to filter for, Findem's data lake is already calculating how long that you physically have worked in particular industries and roles and layering on that company data. But Laura mentioned a very interesting point, which is considered to be in our Findem magics, which are impossible searches on other platforms, and things like language, or if you want to go ahead and find good people in bad places. So maybe the company has had recent layoffs, but your candidate was not part of those layoffs, or you would like to go ahead and hire someone that was maybe 2 reporting levels from a CEO because we're tracking in org charts, information, like maybe I want to find like a VP of engineering that's reported to a CEO. And then another really popular example is find me AEs that were quota achievers, sales award winners, or maybe a sales executive that has physically scaled a company from 10 million to 20 million. All these allow you to get much more qualified in your search and much more specific. But I think maybe from this point, we should probably explain what Copilot's actually doing then, right? So Laura, you've came onto the left-hand side of the search, you've added your calibration that you'd like to do. Copilot is a fascinating tool because what Copilot has already been doing is Copilot has gone into each one of our warm channels across the top of the screen, and Copilot's saying, here are the 50 candidates that do 2 things. The first is that they're qualified for the role. So they're a high priority match for the role. The second is that these are the candidates that are most likely to convert to a hire. The second area is something that's unique to Copilot. And how Copilot is doing this is we're actually prioritizing. You'll see that, for an example, in this particular instance, someone's actually raising their hand saying, I want to work for this role. So that person's the most qualified and they've inbound applied. Then we'll go into the ATS. The fascinating part about using Copilot is that we already have clients that are making hires just in these first 50 candidates of recommendations, because these are your warmest candidates to tap into. Laura, you mentioned something very interesting, and that was at the top of the call where it's like, I'm not really like super tech savvy. AI is kind of new. I got my cell phone like almost 10 years ago, right? So if you're new, or if you're new to a role, you're new to recruiting, you're new to sourcing, you do have your Copilot companion here to help you out. So I believe, Laura, when we were talking before this call, we were talking, well, what are some requirements for some of your technical roles? And you mentioned Tableau, I believe you said was one of them.
Yes, that was
So
important in this position.
yeah, could you share a little bit more on how like Tableau or the experience and how you typically vet if they have a particular, if the candidate has a particular experience or characteristic?
Sure. So before we were connected to Copilot, right, I had to manually go through all 800 or so resumes that we had and see who listed the skills the hiring manager shared that they needed during our intake call. And of course, that was pretty time intensive and cumbersome when I had a full workload of other positions to work on as well. So that's why I'm excited now that we're in the Copilot environment that it can help pull out for me who has Tableau and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And we can do that a variety of different ways. The first is we can either add Tableau on the left-hand side, but what we've been finding more and more people using is these insights at a glance. What insights at a glance is doing is you're able to provide custom AI prompts. So for an example, I would just really like to have someone with Tableau experience. And then I have a prompt that you can customize. You can put whatever you like in here. This is ideal for really niche experiences. We have some clients that are looking for like, I need someone that has experience in special purpose vehicles, right? Like that's a very specific financial tactic and vehicle that probably is fairly new that you might want to use a custom insight for. And when we actually add this insights at a glance, then you'll see that the AI will automatically go through and start not just reading the candidate's like resume, but because we're layering on against over 100,000 different websites, any other information we could find on the internet that we could see like, oh, this particular candidate does have the experience. But then you'll also be able to scroll down, you'll have your match details. So you'll be able to see why exactly a candidate matches or doesn't match. But with all of your searches, you will get an AI assistant. So for an example, a really popular one that people ask, and I tend to interact with AI in order to learn with AI. So let me zoom in here so you can see what we're talking about. And I'm just gonna talk to the AI assistant here for a moment. So why don't we provide me 5 great interview questions to ask this candidate to determine if they're a good fit for the role to share with my hiring manager. And then we'll be able to have a communication with the AI assistant and go back and forth. And this can help me go ahead and calibrate the search. This can help me provide additional insights. And if you're new to the role, if you're new to recruiting, if you're new to this actually sourcing for this type of role, the AI assistant can be great at providing you the materials you need for a hiring manager. But I believe we were talking with Laura before, and you were talking about how you're setting expectations internally with your own hiring managers, especially through searches. Do you mind walking through how you currently set expectations, especially for those difficult searches?
Sure. So Marathon Health has over 700 locations in over 40 states. So as you can imagine, with that many health centers, they're not always in big areas. So I have had a situation that we're opening a brand new health center in Washington State. It's really exciting. It's going to be great for the community, but I am not finding a lot of candidates. So Findem is good because it gives you this insight report that you can pull up and share with your hiring team to help them understand. I will do the impossible for you. I will find you someone, but let's talk about how long it might take. Let's talk about what things we might need to be more flexible on based on the candidate pool. So this is the insights report from my new health center in Kennewick, Washington. As you can see, about 11 people are in that pool. That's not a big pond for me to fish in. Um, so that page right there is really helpful. But if you keep going down, it will show you as well what schools these 11 people went to. So then, I can use all of my recruiter tools, get pretty creative, and I can reach out to these universities and say, hey, you have a graduate living in this area. We have opportunities. Maybe more of your graduates want to move to this area, or maybe more of them are already here and they're interested in this type of role. So I'm able to use this tool for myself, right, to increase my scope of sourcing, but then also to educate the hiring team to help them appreciate and understand what it is we are working with.
Mhm. I will say anecdotally, a lot of people will come to find them and say, I'm looking for roles in really niche areas. Laura really is looking for niche roles in niche areas. Seeing you actually leverage this insights report has been a very interesting learning experience overall. The insights report overall is 20 pages. You'll be able to go ahead and take snippets, send it to a hiring manager, download the report, share it with whoever, set those expectations. The important thing is, especially when we're dealing with a pool of 11, right? These are 11 candidates. And then when the hiring manager is saying, well, where's my hire? Like, are you sure you're looking everywhere? Are you sure that you have the right criteria? It's like, here's the criteria I have. Here are the top companies that actually are housing this talent, right? And then here are the schools that we might want to tap into. Like, to what degree are we on campus? Or are we tapped into the alumni network? All these questions ensure that you can be a trusted talent advisor to the business, as opposed to just saying, well, there's no one else left, right? So now you can start tapping into those warm talent pools. So with all that being said, Francis, I think we've done enough talking here. We'll go ahead and kick it back to you.
Love that. Thanks so much, Matt and Laura. I love that example of the family physician in Washington. If anybody knows a family physician out there in Washington, help a girl out over here.
Yeah, send them my
Yeah,
way.
great opportunity. What Laura forgot to mention is that I believe the facility couldn't even open until you had hired those roles, correct?
Right, they're brand new health centers. So without a doctor in seat, right, we can't exactly see patients. So recruiting, it's always important, but I think it's really important when you need someone in order to open the door.
Right. Gosh. Well, makes me feel like my job's not that important, right? compared to Laura's. But here we are, Find Them Live. I wanted to hear what you guys think of that. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat. I didn't. I think I saw a question here from Trevor. If you have a candidate, do you have a reverse report for jobs available? Matt, do you know? Could you answer that one?
You have a candidate, maybe just a little bit more clarification. If we have a candidate, do we have a reverse report? So for an example, like if Laura's looking for a job, do we have jobs that would be a good fit for Laura? Is that how we're interpreting it? All right, nice. All right, we're communicating through chat. No, but purposely. So Findem is not going to have jobs. We're not a job board. This is going to be specifically in order for you to help with the top of funnel sourcing and looking for candidates, but we're not going to be recommending candidates for different jobs. The ways that would work is if, for an example, we already have Laura in our system and Laura applied to a different job and now she's a better fit for another job. But that's only a job that you have at your company, not externally.
Love that. Awesome. Well, it looks like everyone is so speechless from the demo that they have no questions. But don't worry, maybe if folks are shy. Um, if you have questions, we're happy to follow up with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll also be popping up a quick survey, I think, if you guys want us to follow up with you immediately. Feel free to reach out um, to us. We'll happily customize a demo for you guys. Make sure you fill that out. And if you have any questions about Findem or questions for Laura on her role or any hot tips on those family physicians, please do send them her way. She was very agreeable to put her email up here for you guys. Well, thank you guys so much again for all the time and effort to get here. We hope you enjoyed this time, and we'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.